glad you've arrived alive. I did urge against it, Arthur. Look at them down there.
Oh, it'll blow over by Christmas.
Don't you believe it? The letters arrive by the sackload. Some of them issue threats. I'm afraid the truth is that nobody really understands. You wanted to engage in other works, naturally, but why kill him off?
Because it was time. The fiddler began it, and I'll never forget him. He stood at the end of one of the borough's most depraved and colourful streets, yet there was something unworldly about him, and his playing was more spiritual than all the empty catechisms of the Jesuit boarding school I'd left behind. Beyond him, the streets of the old town seemed to beckon. At first, I told myself it was their life that drew me on. Yet, in only a short time, I was caught up far more intensely by their death. But by then, everything had changed, and in a manner that I never dreamed possible when I embarked on the strange voyage that was my medical education.
I have in my time counted 19 compounds which may be of use to help a patient suffering from the condition. And we list them for you in order...
This is purgatory.
Worse, we have to pay for our torment.
Atropine sulfate, isostigmine sulfate...
We have some more students here for you! If the women insist on attending, we may as well make doctors out of mutton. Go away and find yourselves husbands!
We have every right to be here. There is an Act of Parliament now.
But do you not read your Bible? I did not come here to supervise a brothel.
Since you seem to confuse women with sheep, I am glad of that.
Our studies will not be corrupted. There will never be a place for Jezebels in this university, and we will drive them out any way we can.
The most lively lecture we've had yet.
Even if occasioned by complete idiots. The sheep are more intelligent than the shepherds.
Yes. My preference is to attend without being assaulted.
I can see.
Well, after all, we only wish to be taught, Mr.
Doyle.
You think it too much to expect, Mr. Doyle?
No. It's not something I've personally experienced yet.
My God, this one parades herself as a man to snare us.
Leave her.
The knight errant. But she is no lady. Do you not know what draws them? Much you have to learn, Doyle.
I never dreamed anything could be as dull as boarding school. Now I know better.
Tell me, the Jesuits at your school, did they ever say you'd be damned?
Oh, yes. Once we're running down a corridor with a ball. I mean, if that's what they class as evil, does evil exist at all?
Well, certainly it does. Just stand on a high cliff looking down. No death could be worse, yet some imp still whispers at you to jump. Or you have an important task. Time is desperately short. Again, the same imp will be there in your mind, gently whispering delay. Humans somehow desire to do things merely because they know they should not.
As when I desire to empty a dissection pail over Latimer's head.
Richly deserved. That man is an imbecile.
Take those women today. They do what society forbids them in order to fulfill their dreams.
And the pretty one, Elspeth Scott, dressed as a man. What an inspiration.
Well, there's my inspiration.
That door is always locked.
I was looking for Dr. Bell's office to enroll. What in heaven's name are you doing? Is he dead?
Oh, yes, he died about 14 hours ago. Burst blood vessel. He was a soldier. So, let that be the proof. Not a mark. Not even the smallest swelling.
Yes, but why in the world would it matter? The man's past curing.
In one sense. Now, if you'll step to one side, I'm anxious to perform another test.
My God, you take a risk, a bullet could ricochet.
I'm a great believer in risks. No bleeding.
Of course not.
Exactly.
Tell me, do you work for Bell?
No.
Good. I can speak freely. Should I bother to take his class? I know he has a reputation, but that's hardly high praise here.
So, you're not impressed, Mr.
Doyle? No, I'd hoped to be enlightened, but I'm being bored to death. To tell the truth, I'm on the point of giving up, though I've nothing else to follow. And it will cause a lot of pain to my people, but I never dreamed there could be such imbeciles.
Medicine attracts them, I find. It's one of the problems with our profession.
And Bell sounds as ridiculous as the rest. Have you read his twaddle? I saw one article where the man claims to be able to distinguish personality and occupation from someone's fingernails or boots. What a charlatan. I'd like to set him down in a third-class carriage and make him try to list the trades of his fellow travellers.
Perhaps you ought to suggest it. He's probably arrogant enough to accept. Well, I've finished here. Let me show you where to go, Mr. Doyle.
Your first time? And then prepare yourself. He's a real performer.
That's him, I take it.
No, that's Dr. Carmichael. Bell has quite a retinue. Now, there he is.
Be seated, gentlemen. Mr. Doyle, good morning again. An elementary procedure this morning, gentlemen. No sophisticated deductions of a kind that might cause Mr. Doyle here anguish. He is a little concerned that he may be in the presence of yet another Edinburgh charlatan. But I offer Mr. Doyle this simple warning. Be careful. From the astrologer came the astronomer. From the alchemist came the chemist. From the mesmerist came the mental specialist. The charlatan is always the pioneer. The quack of yesterday is the professor of tomorrow. And now, the knife. Or is it the wand?
Arthur? Your father has not been good today. Now then, back to bed.
Father.
I wish they would take the ashes from my mouth so I could tell you how to see the truth I see. Do you want that, Arthur?
Yes. Yes, I want to see the truth.
I found their nest in the pot. The fairies of death.
He's been drinking all day. This evening I tried to examine him. He flew into a rage. I will try again.
Why should he examine him? He's only the lodger.
He's also a doctor, as you well know.
Because he pays our rent, he's to be given rights over everyone in the house, is he?
That is not fair. Now, you must take this. It is the most valuable thing your father owns, and I want you to have it before he pawns it again or smashes it in anger. Arthur, I'm not deceiving you. Your father says and does the most terrible things, but he would never harm one of us. Now, please, take this and keep it carefully.
Excuse me. Excuse me. What's happened?
As you see, he's had some sort of seizure. Drank far too much than was good for him. They saw him writhing in agony.
Alcoholic poisoning. I expect somebody gave him a bottle.
What bottle?
I don't know. Ask them. Light-fingered lot.
I smell no alcohol from him. I knew Samuel. He was no great drinker. You're sure as death, as you say.
What do you know about it?
I'm a medical student.
I will go and pester someone else. He's not been attacked, and why would anyone hurt him? They didn't even take his pennies.
You'd better get back to your studies, young man. It's a common enough occurrence. He was a drunken beggar.
But why would anyone wish to harm him?
I can see no reason. Samuel had no enemies, but I felt a sense of evil so strongly. Evil? A few weeks ago, you were doubting its existence.
The evil that the Jesuits taught me, damnation of the multitudes for trifles, yes, not this.
I can't see you will ever know.
Unless the body was examined.
Doyle, even if you found his body, how could you persuade them to do that? We're not exactly men of influence in our profession.
Mrs. Harrison, who recently suffered sudden blindness in both eyes, is that correct?
Yes, it's been 3 days now.
Mm-hmm. And you can see nothing?
Nothing whatsoever.
I would ask you to observe very closely. Do not fear. You are ill, but you are not blind. Gentlemen, I do not doubt Mrs. Harrison's honesty or her suffering. She endures what she thinks is blindness. But once again, close observation, in this case of the eye's reflexes, tells us that although genuinely ill, her condition is not physical, but mental.
Man's just a show-off.
Will supervise her treatment. Thank you. Will you step forward now, sir? Now, before I address the next patient, I would like you to look at him carefully and tell me anything and everything you can observe from his first appearance. What can you deduce, Mr. Stark?
He has a limp, perhaps a sprain of some kind?
Not very much, in other words. You see, but you do not observe. Can no one observe? Mr. Doyle, using your eyes, your ears, your brain, your bump of perception, what can you deduce from this man's appearance?
That he's in need of medical attention. Why not ask him?
I admit he has few distinguishing features. All I can observe for sure from looking at him is that he comes from Liberton, that he drives 2 horses, 1 grey, 1 bay, and that he's been recently retired from the army.
It's true. How in the world do you ken, sir?
Oh, man, I'm off it tempts to keep you wondering, but I will explain. He has Liberton clay on his toe caps. These are ammunition boots generally offered to the soldier on his discharge from the army. He has white equine hairs on one sleeve and bay on the other. 2 horses.
See? It's little more than a conjuring trick.
Yes, Mr. Doyle, you were saying... Yes?
I was merely doubting the practical application of such tricks.
Oh, were you really? Well, such doubts may well have a practical application to your career at this university. I will see you later. Every tiny detail, every button, every line, every gesture, every hair, every speck is of use and value to us. So, you believe my method has no practical use?
I'd like to see one.
Come with me. I could have you thrown out of my class for impertinence. However, when one has so much to learn, it is better that he be taught. I would like you to become my clerk. Speed, gentlemen, speed. Doyle! Right, stitch it up and insert a draining tube. Draining tube, draining tube, draining tube. Doyle, sponge. Sponge. Thank you. You see, gentlemen, hygiene is of little use if the man dies on us here. Doyle, I want you to come with me down to the specimen building. We have to choose some samples for tomorrow.
Dr. Bell!
Ah, it seems I have a more pressing engagement. Now, this is a list of what I require. Thank you.
He seems better. Perhaps...
No, I sedated him, that's all. Your mother says you were concerning yourself about that beggar with the fiddle.
You knew?
I had the infernal racket he made. It's sad, I suppose, in a way, but are we not better off for the streets being clear of such people?
Now, Sir Henry, if you'll come this way, I'd like to show you how our newest theatre is progressing, thanks to your generous endowment.
Delighted. Though I must admit, I'm almost expecting to find lace tablecloths draped over the instruments of surgery. After all, as much as we may abhor it, it seems you now have the tender sensibilities of women to consider.
Yes, it's been left for each teacher to decide whether to admit women.
Well, quite so. But I hear Latimer, for one, stands out again it. He says the only women in his anatomy class will continue to enter feet first.
It is to compromise yourself.
That is my judgment.
And you know my feelings about the way that...
I am sorry, I was looking for Dr. Gillespie.
He is not here, Mr. Doyle. But may I introduce my sister, Lady Sarah Carlyle?
Mr. Doyle? Dr. Gillespie is approving the new wing with my husband. I'm sure you can interrupt them.
Well, Ma'am, with no disrespect, I merely wish to point out to them it's hard enough here for your sister and her colleagues, without her own patron airing feelings against them.
Mr. Doyle, if certain of my husband's views incline to the traditional, it is his affair and not particularly unusual. But Elspeth here will make a good doctor. I am proud of her.
Look, Doyle, there's our mysterious Dr. Bell.
Perhaps the man has a mistress.
No, I think he follows some activities separate from his medical work.
Possibly. And so to my companions, I argued Bell's other activity was likely to be charitable and dull. But I determined in myself at exactly that moment that I would find the solution to this little mystery, and by using his own methods. Eventually, sheer curiosity compelled me into more dramatic action.
Go on, sir.
Got a mark on her. Satisfied?
No, I'm not. Tell Walton to prepare. Oh, and Summers, on your way, could you send my clerk in, please? You'll find him outside that door. A word of advice. When you are following someone, keep well away from lighted windows. However, since you've shown more initiative than many of your predecessors, come and look at this.
Forensic work?
Yes. Initially, it was forensic advice I was asked for, in confidence. But I became increasingly aware that I was only scratching the surface. You see, I believe that crimes can be diagnosed in the same fashion as disease if we use the same techniques. So, what can you glean from the late Mrs. Canning here?
She's unmarked. You believe she was murdered?
Yes, I do. Predictably, the police say heart failure.
Well, at least they investigate. A few weeks ago, I saw a beggar dead in the street.
Cause of death?
The doctor said alcohol poisoning. There wasn't a smell of it. I'm sure he was murdered, but they would do nothing.
You are right. Because this woman was respectable, her death receives some attention. For a woman of the street, it would be different. When they are attacked, and several have been in the past few months, the police do nothing. It's the same with your beggar.
Hypocrisy.
Worse. My own observations lead me to conclude that the authorities here investigate as little as possible, and then only when success is certain, with the result that the murderers they do detect are so stupid they are hardly worthy of the name. A traveler is bludgeoned over a game of cards. A man steals a horse after slitting its owner's throat. A woman sets out to poison her husband and uses so much arsenic that she ends up half dead herself.
At least they were caught.
Oh, yes, and that gives comfort to the ignorant whilst allowing the worst crimes imaginable to go unremarked. I will tell you the unwritten code of this town, Doyle. Do as little as possible. Ah, Walton, at last. You've come to do the autopsy, I hope. Good. Come on, Doyle.
Belle, at last you're here. We've hung on long enough. Have your autopsy by all means, and then can we leave the woman to rest?
This is Arthur Doyle, my new clerk, Inspector Beecham of the City Police, and of course you've met his colleague, Summers.
I take it we can conclude the matter tonight without bringing in the Procurator Fiscal. There are unusual features to the business. She had locked herself in, and her maid was outside. There's no evidence of a crime, and in any case, no living person could have got to her.
No living person, perhaps I agree.
She locked herself in, you say?
The woman was a hysteric.
Even her maid had to taste her food. Walton's examining the content of Mrs. Canning's stomach now, and I'm sure we'll find nothing.
You'll find no way in there. Locked from the inside and not disturbed for many weeks. Particles from Belle here were all perfectly happy this death was natural.
Did you follow up the matter of her husband?
Just as he said, he was away that night until long after her death, playing in his club's annual bridge competition. It lasted throughout the night. There were scores of witnesses.
Yes, I was here outside my mistress's door all night, sir. It reassured her if I waited up outside, for she always feared she would be attacked.
By whom?
Someone invisible. That's all she would say. And she was not helped with the loss of her poor cat. I did not mention that before, sir, but it ran off some days ago.
And that would be while your mistress was away?
Why, yes, sir. How did you know? It was while she was at her sister's.
Tell me, Anne, Mr. Canning's study must be through there.
Why, yes, sir.
Thank you.
What a night. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr. Canning.
Sir. I gather they're performing the autopsy at last. Well, I hope it will settle things. Please God, there is some answer. What is so horrible is to think it came as she feared.
What exactly did your wife fear, Mr. Canning? Can you be more specific?
Very well. I admit I hate even mentioning the name. Blaine Carstairs. You've heard of him, I see. Yes, the man was hanged at Corden Square, not far away.
Did he live here?
No, but the house was the scene of one of his crimes. A whole family. My wife found out shortly after we came. I curse myself now for bringing her here.
And your wife said she saw this man?
She said she felt his presence in the house.
Blaine Carstairs, how did he murder his victims?
He suffocated them. It is singular, Doyle, and I have to confess it puzzles me greatly.
Sir?
Oil lamps! Come in! Thank you, Constable. Well, there's not a trace of poison on her, and no marks of any kind. Walton is still working on the autopsy. But there is evidence that her lungs were deprived of oxygen as if she had been suffocated.
Good God. Then it must have been as they thought. She worked herself up into a terror inspired by what once happened here, and her heart gave way. Just think of that poor woman lying here. That wind howling in the chimney. It's horrible.
What? What did you say? Yes. Yes, of course. Thank you, Doyle. You've cleared up the very matter that has been bedeviling me.
So you think she died of terror because of these unfounded fears?
Unfounded? No, they were very well founded. She was suffocated. Both her husband and her maid have told us quite clearly what happened.
What are you talking about? They spoke of the invisible ghost of a dead man.
Well, there you are then, Belle. Her breathing was constricted, but there was nothing blocking her throat and her lungs. It must have been her heart.
No, it was not her heart. Mrs. Canning was murdered in just the manner that she feared. An invisible thing entered her room 2 nights ago and smothered the life out of her.
In God's name, Belle. This is too much, even for you.
Mr. Canning, I have come to the conclusion that your belief in a lethal but unseen presence in this house is fully justified. I would like to prove it to these skeptics, but for that I would need your permission to put some questions to the maid here.
Of course. And give the doctor any assistance he requires. I'm eager to hear it.
Thank you, sir. Tell me, Anne, was your mistress at all particular about the fires in this house?
Why, yes, sir. Other than the bedrooms, she liked them to be lit early each morning at 5.
I see. And who lit that fire on the morning she was found?
Why, me, sir, I suppose.
Perhaps you'd be kind enough to show us exactly what you do first when you come down here so early in the morning.
What I do, sir? Why, I get down...
In the dark?
Why, no, sir. I turn up the gas.
Of course you do. And then?
I go to the fire and I open the flue.
A wee bit stiff, is it not?
Yes. Yes, it is. I do not know why that should be. But there. It's open.
Good. That's all I need to know. Thank you, Anne. You may go now. I believe this is what you are looking for, Mr. Canning. I found this among your books. Perhaps I'd better demonstrate. You see, this was the carrier between the 2 rooms. One end inserted into a small hole in the wall, while the other... And there is your invisible agent moving into the bedroom next door through that tube. and quite capable of asphyxiating the only occupant of a room totally devoid of ventilation.
But why didn't the maid smell gas when she went in?
Exactly what I couldn't understand. That was the sticking point. It was Doyle here who came to my rescue. You see, the gas would disperse in an hour or two if the room were ventilated and the pressure down. It was you who mentioned the wind howling in the chimney.
What of it?
There was the means of ventilation. And your alibi, Mr. Canning, was intact. For the maid was quite innocently acting as your accomplice. She enters, as she's just shown us, and turns up the lamps. Little gas is now escaping into the room next door. Next, she goes to the fire, and she finds the flue is a bit stiff. Why? Because it has been connected by a wire to the flue in the adjoining fireplace in Mrs. Canning's bedroom. Opening this one, the maid opens the other one as well. You knew it would be hours before the body was discovered. Plenty of time for the gas to escape and for you to remove the tube.
My congratulations, Belle. Whiskey, anyone?
But could he be sure it would work?
Oh, like any good scientist, he had tested it to his satisfaction while his wife was away. Her cat, you'll recall, has disappeared. Doyle. Come here. After tonight, I think we can justify your admission here. Here you will find evidence of the dark and dangerous times in which we live. My own black museum.
How long have you been studying crime in this way?
A few years ago, something happened. It made me unsure how to go on. And then, like a miracle, this work, my work, began.
But Dr. Latimer, this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
I have made my position quite clear, ladies. You will not enter my class.
You have not heard the last of this, Dr. Latimer.
Has Dr. Latimer thrown you out?
He refuses to teach us dissection for fear we might see something improper. His facial expression, perhaps.
The man's a fool.
One of many. This arrived at my lodgings today.
And upon her forehead was a name written, the mother of all harlots. Therefore shall the plagues come in one day, for she is drunk of the blood of the Lamb.
And last night I thought someone was following me.
It must be Crawford. We saw him threaten you. I'll tell Dr. Bell.
No, it would just become another excuse to be rid of us. Well, as it is, the author of this rubbish will be crowing to see me banned from the demonstration room. Mr. Doyle, you are a clerk. Does that mean you have access to Latimer's dissection room?
Yes, it's free at the end of every day. But the night clerk would never admit a woman.
No. But would you help me?
Ah, did you know that even after 8 hours, you cannot properly dispel the traces of gunpowder in water? It's a subject of great interest.
Yes, Doctor. The theatre's prepared.
Good. Have you reflected on last night's case? Perhaps, as my clerk, you might consider writing up some notes. They'll be destroyed, of course. It's a condition of my police work for the Crown that it never will be made public, but it could help your understanding.
I'd certainly like to try. I know the world's full of cruelty, but for a man to frighten his wife until she was in abject terror and then kill her in the way she feared most, it's barbarous.
But what about my method, Doyle? That is where I feel a record will prove useful.
It can't be too long. I've something to do later.
More work for Dr. Bell, Doyle. He does keep you busy.
What do you expect? The man's a calculating machine.
Of course. But I admire it. For medicine should be a crusade. We fight the army of bacteria as we fight a war. And Bell has the mind of a fighter.
Is that not Sir Henry Carlisle?
Well, certainly. He may not want women at the hospital, but I hear he's more than happy with their company at Madame Rose's.
I will do.
I think so. I hope so. We must seem to know each other.
Of course. We're old colleagues.
Right. Go on then. No, Walker has a fad about the protodural, the motor to the face. He believes paralysis of it comes from a disturbance of the blood supply. He even got it into his head to remove a patient's ear, which caused a lot of chatter. You remember him? He always said the first great advance of the human race was when they attained the power of speech. The second was when they learned to control it. Regrettably, according to him, women have not yet attained the second stage.
Wretched Doyle, I was shaking like a leaf.
I had to play the part.
Too well for me.
No. Yesterday, Latimer was dissecting the knee. He used this and said we could continue on the other as we wished.
I'm not squeamish, Mr. Doyle. We do not have to start here.
I assure you, it's what we were doing.
It is hard to get at the cruciate ligament, but there.
But we took 10 minutes on the other knee. You've done dissection before.
My father was a doctor. Sometimes he allowed me to assist him.
In the hospital?
And in training. My sister and I were brought up in Cape Town. It's possible to do a huge amount there with very little. And nobody quibbles about being treated by a woman. They need us too badly. Now that is the articular cartilage, I think.
I can't see you need instruction.
In the summer, I intend to go back and work in his hospital in the veldt. I wish you could see it. Is your father a doctor? Is he proud of you?
He's not a doctor, no.
Well, I'm sure he is proud of you. My father died of fever 4 years ago. It was hard to bear since we scarcely knew my mother. But when I'm working, I feel I'm close to him. It is certainly one thing that makes me feel happy. But again, I talk about myself too much. It is your fault. Like some spy, you make sure you ask all the questions. I think it is your way of prevailing. But what makes you happy? Do you enjoy all your work with Dr. Bell?
Mrs. Clark, yes.
Why, what else are you, Mr. Doyle? His valet?
This is your street?
I fear so.
You don't like it?
It is... well, first the house is called Seaview, which is among the grimmer jokes for me, for the sea feels very far away. There, my landlady. I must go.
We can continue tomorrow. Though I fear you learnt nothing tonight.
You're right. I learnt nothing about you. But tomorrow I will persevere.
Doyle! Good. I was coming to find you. We are summoned at once. I told you about the attacks on women. Well, at last, the mystery man has shown himself.
So this is Madame Rose's?
Yes, it is.
Please, sir?
No, but they're on their way. Why, what's happened?
Will you follow me, sir? She was attacked, sir. I came in to clean. I heard her screaming. She'd fallen asleep, and someone had gotten her by the neck. She didn't see properly, but it must still be up there.
What, her assailant is still here?
Aye, sir, upstairs. And there is blood, she says.
I lost him over the roofs.
This is what happens when you interfere. We could have had him. Summers should never send word to you.
This is where I found him. I've searched all the others. Save that one.
Good God.
This is just clothing.
Been through the place from top to bottom. There's nothing at all.
No body.
A room of blood, then.
So, nobody saw the man properly. In fact, both women had thought they were alone here.
Then he enters unseen, and he obviously knows the place intimately.
No help at all. That comprises half the men in the city, yet none will admit it. And as you know, Madame in there would probably rather be hanged than betray her custom. But then have you considered that the blood up there in the room might not be the man's doing at all?
What are you talking about?
One of the poor wretches who works here could have slit her wrists and then crawled into the street. Simple as that. Though no doubt you will have some fantastic theory.
Why should I, when you've already done it for me? I know you'd do anything to avoid investigating death in a brothel, but if we are going to enter the realms of fantasy, then believe me, vampires offer a much better working hypothesis.
What do you mean?
Do you have any idea of the volume of blood in that room? Nobody could lose that amount and live to crawl away. And the blood is fresh. I suggest you steel yourself for a murder inquiry. Someone is taking me for a fool. And that idiot Beecher will not hesitate to say so. I'm surprised we haven't been sent for already. Come in, Summers.
Good news, Dr. Bell. We found what you were looking for. Your victims. So I don't think on this occasion we'll need to worry ourselves about a murder inquiry, sir.
Congratulations, Inspector. And the blood-soaked clothing?
Its owner is an Agnes Walsh. She once worked here at Madame Rose's and left her coat in that room. She'd get a shock if she ever comes to reclaim it. So that's that. Someone's gruesome idea of a prank. I'll bid you good day, then.
Beecher, a woman was half strangled, remember?
A prostitute, and she's all right. Perhaps the Joker didn't want his slaughter interrupted. We will keep our eyes open, if you'll excuse the expression. But I fear there are other, more pressing matters.
Yet none so strange. Do you really think that those sheep were slaughtered up there? Of course not. Excuse me. Here.
Mere detail. If you wish to reconstruct the crime, Doctor, I suggest you use your own bathroom.
Imbeciles. I think you have about 19 minutes.
What?
From the frequency with which you've consulted your watch, you must be meeting someone at 6 o'clock. I'll see you in the morning.
Thank you, sir. You remember Samuel the fiddler?
Yes, of course I remember him. He used to play so beautifully.
I was reminded because it was here that they found him that day. Of course.
What?
Oh, it's nothing. Just seeing the spot again reminded me of something. I knew I'd seen it before. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's no matter anyway, because he was poor, his death went unnoticed. Anyway. My friend Neil blames the doctors. He says we should fight bacteria as in a war. Medicine should be our mission.
And do you agree with him? My mission was to follow my father. What is yours?
I'm afraid I don't appear to have one.
Why does it matter what someone is good at? If not medicine, then building sandcastles.
Only you could make that sound like a mission.
Why not? With a waterfall and a moat. I'd be happy helping you.
And I'd be happy to build it. One thing I do know is, I swear I've never met anyone like you in my life.
I still don't even know where you live. But you said with your parents. A favor?
Anything.
Well, having none myself, I would very much like to meet your parents when next we walk out. I would take it as an honor, Mr. Doyle.
Miss Scott!
I must go.
Someone was in Latimer's laboratory a few days ago. And we think these women have been helping themselves to our materials against all the university regulations.
And what of it? We are permitted to enter this class.
She does not even deny it. 'Tis written in the Bible what they are.
Let them through, Crawford.
They are such delicate lambs, are they not? What harm may come to them?
Are you mad?
Are not all the best doctors mad? That's why these women will never qualify. Is it possible as wet nurses?
Don't kill her! Do you hear me? This is disgraceful. We will not tolerate such bedlam. The women must stand down for a month. And you, sir, for 2.
This is your doing. And you will pay like a lamb to the slaughter! And you will not escape me! You will not escape me, do you hear?
Suspension is hardly likely to cure the fundamental problem of intolerance and bigotry.
Doctor!
We have a responsibility to all the students at this university.
I wanted to talk to you, Doctor.
If it's about this business with the women,
It
Doyle,
concerns them, certainly, but it's something else, too. That pile of coins. I knew I'd seen it somewhere before, now I know where. There was something similar beside the beggar who was killed.
Oh, presumably his earnings.
Yes, that's what I'd thought, but now I see the oddness of it. Sammy never left his earnings in the street. They were always in his hat. And if that overturned, then presumably the coins would scatter, but it was the same as in the room, just a little heap.
Intriguing.
I think Crawford's responsible for the killing of the sheep. He heard it summoned to a lecture. He refers to the blood of the lamb. Even threw coins at Miss Scott. He's obsessed with the women. I fear he may be a serious danger. They must be protected.
Of course, but in your natural anxiety, Doyle, I fear you're making connections where none exist. A dead violinist, a room of blood, a pile of coins. Some of the facts are suggestive, but there is no genuine thread, and until we have that, we have nothing. Again, you have not fully analyzed the method.
But is it honestly a new method? I'm sorry, Doctor, but it still seems to me that you're simply using forensic skills to make obvious, if dramatic, connections.
Oh, no, it's much more than that. If I could just find some way of illustrating the matter for you.
Perhaps you can. You said it's difficult for any man to keep an object in daily use without leaving his personality upon it.
Quite true.
Would you accept a challenge?
I would rejoice in a challenge.
Very well. Succeed with this watch, and you'll convince me.
And if I fail?
You'll oblige me by pursuing the matter of Crawford and the women, with all the resources at your disposal.
Agreed. But there are hardly any data. The watch has been recently cleaned, which robs me of my most significant facts.
Yes, I oversaw its cleaning myself. And, Doctor, I fear this surely illustrates the limitations of your so-called method.
Possibly so. The date of the watch is more than 50 years back. Whoever last owned it was a man of untidy habits, very untidy and careless. He was left with good prospects, but threw away his chances. He lived for some time in relative poverty with a few short intervals of prosperity. Finally, he took to drink, and his mind went. And that's all I can tell you.
This is unworthy of you, Dr. Bell. I could not believe you would descend to it.
I do not follow you.
This is my father's watch. You have somehow got wind of our family history, and now you pretend to deduce this knowledge in some fanciful way. To expose a painful secret in such a fashion is not merely unkind. It's pure malice.
My dear Doyle, viewing the matter merely as an abstract problem, I had not considered your personal feelings. I assure you, I have no knowledge of your family circumstances. You could be an orphan for all I know.
Then how?
The same as always. Observe the small facts upon which large inferences depend. Careless. Well, the lower part of the watch is dented and cut and marked from the habit of keeping other hard objects such as coins and keys in the same pocket. To treat a 50-guinea watch so cavalierly indicates a careless man. As to his former prospects, it is unlikely that a man who inherits one object of such value should not be well provided for in other respects. Through my lens, I can see many pawnbrokers' marks, hence the hard times. But clearly he had occasional moments of prosperity, or he could not have redeemed his pledge. Finally, look at the scratches around the keyhole. Mark where the key has slipped. What sober man's keys could have scored those grooves? then you will observe. Here, they become seriously disturbed and destructive, well beyond mere drunkenness. So, have I shown you something at last?
Yes.
Coming straight.
Get off! When my knee is better, I'll make you pay. How do you like our game, Neil?
Excellent. It has all the licensed anarchy of life. Great physical punishment for no discernible reason.
You make it sound like the treatment we're accorded at the university. Now we cannot even attend.
Have you seen Miss Scott?
Elspeth, no. She could be working. Or perhaps she's gone over to the coast. Her father had a cottage there.
So you've not seen her, Doyle?
No.
Where have you been, anyway?
I've been studying.
A part of me wanted to tell my friends the truth, that my father was now in an asylum. I hated the secrecy, but in the end I would discover the town held far worse secrets.
No? Well, it might help your knee.
Oh, I have better medicine. The crutches are gone.
Well, you take one. Working as a servant can be most hard on the nerves, and this aids all the functions.
So you practice your mission as a doctor already, Neil?
You know I have a qualification from Montreal. Besides, this is only sugar and valerian. What a patient, though. Why leave? I would have paid a fortune for her.
I thought your country fought a war against slavery.
She can say no, Doyle.
Is it true the first thing your cavalry do after they claim a town is send for women?
Most certainly. Have you not heard of the rogue General Hooker?
Your country sounds barbaric.
Gloriously so.
Dr. Bell.
Gentlemen.
What brings you here, sir?
Oh, it is my business to go everywhere. Doyle, I apologize for interrupting your studies, but I have a patient to visit. You will accompany me, and you'll help me find a cab. Come on!
So who's our patient?
You will see. I would ask for the utmost discretion.
Evening, sir. Evening. Dr. Bell, thank you so much for coming. I'm sure it's nothing, but I wanted her to see someone in the strictest confidence.
This is Arthur Doyle, my trusted clerk and pupil. He's torn himself away from his studies to assist me.
Sir.
Mr. Doyle. Dr. Bell is here to see him, my dear. His clerk is with him.
Lady Carlyle, I'm sure we can be of assistance to you.
Mr. Doyle?
It is an infection, I'm afraid, but I am confident that we'll be able to contain it. I will, of course, be advising your husband as to the best way forward.
Please, I beg of you, do not alarm him.
I promise. And I'll be back to see you again very soon.
Thank you. Mr. Doyle, my sister speaks very highly of you, though I understand she has not seen you for a time.
I've been studying, but I very much want to see her. How is she?
Well, I can tell you where to find her. She has not been herself entirely. I know I have worried her, though I must tell you I concealed some of the symptoms from her. I do not want her concerned.
Of course.
Ah, doctors. For even the humblest student deserves the title. You must take some refreshment. Nothing serious, I trust. I'm very hopeful of an heir.
Oh, I'm afraid there can be no possibility of children at present. The lady has a circulatory imbalance causing inflammation that has been exacerbated by a constitutional infection.
I've warned her time and again. She was parading around in the cold after church on Sunday.
Tell me, you have no symptoms yourself?
Symptoms? Of course not. There's nothing at all wrong with me, Doctor. This is not good news.
If your wife was hoping for a child, her disappointment will be great.
I don't see that's any concern of yours, Mr. Doyle. You'll be back, I take it, Dr. Bell.
Within the next few days. Good night, Sir Henry.
Good night, sir.
Constitutional infection and circulatory imbalance. Nonsense. You talk about the necessity of observation and analysis. Your method. And this is the result, a cover and a fiction.
Of course it is. She has syphilis.
And he gave it to her.
Yes, very probably.
Certainly. He's a customer at Madame Rose's. I will not be a party to this. You're colluding with him because he is your patron. It is the greatest hypocrisy.
He is not my patron, laddie, and I wouldn't care a halfpenny if he were. You have always doubted my working method, but at least obey one of its more simple rules. Look at all the facts before drawing conclusions. Of course, circulatory imbalance is a crude fiction, but necessary because it gives me time.
But it is our job to speak out.
Why?
Because it is just.
Just. I'll tell you what will happen if we do. Sir Henry will denounce his wife whilst refusing to be examined himself. Instead, he will make public allegations of a vile kind, easily gaining medical support to have his wife committed to an asylum on the grounds of moral insanity or some such tripe. Is that just?
No, it is monstrous.
Yes. Like so much that goes on in our fair city. But if a doctor has any compassion, he will maintain a fiction to protect his patient rather than have her crucified. That is our choice, Doyle. And unless you can provide irrefutable proof of your suspicions, the woman's only hope is that you will keep quiet. From what you say, it is a principle that is strictly adhered to within your own family. Good night, Doyle.
Mr. Doyle, you are a stranger. How did you find me?
There are not so many places to study. I do wish I'd come sooner. You're making progress?
No, I'm not. I cannot disguise that I had hoped to see you sooner. To tell the truth, I've been frightened.
Crawford?
I do not know. I saw him once in the street and managed to avoid him. But there is something else. I think someone has secretly entered my lodgings, though I have not seen them.
So how do you know?
It is so stupid. A small thing. I'd like to show you, but I cannot, for it is in my bedroom. Some coins were placed there.
And when you woke up, this is what you saw?
Yes.
I assume you haven't touched it.
No. I was aghast. Well, naturally, I told Mrs. Maitland. She said I'd merely piled my change and forgotten it. But I know I hadn't, Dr. Bell. It was not there when I went to sleep. The door was closed.
And the window?
I often sleep with it open.
We will make inquiries and return. Meantime, please keep the door and window locked tonight.
Crawford threw coins at Elspeth and said he would kill her. I heard him.
Then we must pay Crawford a visit. This is far more serious than I thought.
I have been mistaken in cases before, but I have to tell you this is the first time I have been wrong and someone else has been right. I now concede, Doyle, that as you suspected, your beggar was murdered by the man we seek.
Yet whoever came over the roof didn't harm her.
I draw a little comfort from that.
There is a pattern to be deciphered here, I'm sure of it. The coins, the room of blood, the eyes. Like some game, but the player has already killed once. Fine palace for our primary suspect, is it not?
You think someone would have seen our carriage?
Hello? Surely they must have servants. I beg you to forgive us. We are seeking Gordon Crawford.
You have found him? What business do you have to interrupt our nightly prayers?
You are Gordon Crawford?
I suppose you want my son.
And he's not here?
He may well be. But if you wish to talk to him, I suspect you will be disappointed.
Crawford?
Sir, you have no business here. It is my place. Doyle, how dare you come get out?
Mr. Crawford, you have been following a young lady named Elspeth Scott.
Oh, yes. I was with her all last night. In my mind. Dreams induced by this tincture are remarkable. She is delicious in her abominations.
Then you did not leave here last night?
Nobody can be absolutely sure, least of all myself. But I am convinced of one thing. You can prove nothing that will incriminate me. What have you there, sir? An idol of silver and gold.
Have you seen it before? It is laudanum, Doyle. And laudanum is the worst kind of alibi for our purposes. I don't think he's shamming now, but who can say what he was like last night? His own father admits they keep no track of him.
You saw him, gentlemen.
We did, sir.
What does it say about a man that he can sink so low?
Beyond the fact that his father is a fanatical, self-righteous bully, I've no idea.
You will not be welcome here again.
Good night to you. I have long considered a monograph on criminal fathers. That man might well figure prominently if I ever get around to it. Aha! He has a visitor, I see. Ever the ready smile in spite of his wife's condition?
But what brings him here?
That we must discover.
The sight of Sir Henry at that austere house renewed all my hatred and suspicion of the man. But I could hardly have guessed what was to follow. For next morning, at Elspeth's came a most bizarre and unsettling surprise.
Miss Scott, a package for you! These dreadful things are out here. The young lady's upstairs, packing. We are a law-abiding house, and in the circumstances, she cannot continue to stay here.
In the circumstances, madam, I doubt she would wish to. What do you make of the string, Beecher?
It's been tarred.
Precisely, it is tarred twine. Miss Scott cut the end with scissors. That is important.
I cannot see why.
Because it preserves the knot, frequently informative. A wild and fanciful one. Brown paper, smelling of coffee. No postmark, of course, since it was handed to that boy in the grass market. Around noon. Are you sure the lad did not see the man's face?
The boy cannot even say his age.
You see a faint pencil mark. And the numerals 115 are legible. That could be very significant. The address has been written with a broad-nibbed pen. And now, the box.
Oh, God.
A vicious practical joke. Someone has taken human ears from a dissecting room, Dr. Bell. The women students are constantly the butt of such things.
We mustn't jump to conclusions, Beecher. These have been severed quite recently, but certainly not with a surgical instrument. Bodies in the dissecting room are injected with preserving fluid. I detect no trace of it here. The infirmary uses rectified spirits, never salt. No, this is not a joke, and I have no doubt that the owner's body will be found. Meantime, we have much to do. Doyle, the landlady is a pillar of piety, and she's bound to have a Bible or three. Ask her if we could borrow one of them.
Aye, sir.
Here we are. Psalm 115. Yes, at verse 4. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands.
The coins.
They have mouths, but they speak not.
Samuel the fiddler.
And his shattered violin. Eyes have they, but they see not.
The sheep's eyes.
They have ears, but they hear not.
He's following the psalm.
Smell.
How does it go on?
Neither speak they through their throat.
Crawford.
Here. The twine and the paper. He attempted to burn it.
Is it not the same?
Oh, I'd wager it's precisely the same.
The broad-nibbed pen.
Aha!
Dr. Bell?
Yes?
You have to go at once, sir. They've found a woman's body.
We're coming now. Constable, I think your men should conduct a search of these woods.
Aye, sir.
As you can see, there is no doubt the ears belong to her. Her name is Ellie Carswell. She lived in poverty in a small room in a grass market. Had not been seen for some days. Her neighbors found her.
So you content now, Inspector? That crimes have been committed?
I am. And I feel sure young Crawford is the guilty party. But my original observation still applies, gentlemen. These are crimes of a very limited kind.
The postmortem showed this woman died of heart failure brought on by alcohol poisoning and malnutrition. The mutilation certainly took place after death. There has been, as far as I can see, no murder.
Again, playing games.
But the good news is, your player is found, gentlemen. Only he's not about to explain himself to you or anyone else.
We are no further forward.
But in the outhouse?
Crawford has been dead for 12 hours at least. He could not possibly have handed over the parcel. Our mystery man is still at large.
But we've built up a case. The coins, the psalm, the paper. I mean, your method is...
It's a mental process, Doyle, not a forcing press. All the evidence was intended to lead us to Crawford. Do you not realize how lucky we have been?
Lucky?
Crawford's suicide. Whoever is behind all this could not have known of it, or the box would never have been sent.
I have done as you said, Dr. Bell. Nobody knows I am here.
Good. Miss Scott, it may be that you have no further part to play in this business. The evidence suggests that his interest lies elsewhere. Nevertheless, there is something about his style that makes me uneasy. It would be much safer if nobody knew your whereabouts. And in that respect, your suspension from studies may stand in our favor. I understand from Doyle here, You have a place on the coast?
I do not wish to run away from this, Dr. Bell.
It is not running away, I assure you. Just being sensible. That is why it should widely be supposed that you are making a visit to London.
Is it not fine?
Fine. It's wonderful.
Well, try shouting as loudly as you like. Nobody can hear.
Charlatan!
Tomfool!
Buffoon!
And now you must do what you never do, Mr. Doyle. Talk about yourself and your family.
So, my father, he was a wonderful artist. He could draw scenes that would fire your imagination. A frog running with a pixie across a meadow. And a strange truth about them. And jokes, too. But now, both of us have lost our fathers. For it's as if mine's dead, inside.
I knew you had, like me, a sadness. But I didn't understand. I wanted to discover what it was. You think you may come back from it?
I always have. But my mother, she endured a lot while I was away from home. She's always loving to me, but I know her greatest dread is that my life will go like his, that I fail to make anything of it. I share her obvious doubt on the subject.
This is my favorite place. It was my aunt's. I always thought it magical. As if anything could happen here.
I believe in that.
As I do in you. You were wrong about yourself.
You could make anyone believe such a thing.
Only because I know it is true. You know I'm going to Africa.
And I will go with you.
As what?
As a doctor. Or an itinerant dancer, what does it matter?
Dancer would be good. I cannot pretend I would stop you.
I hold you to it then.
Well, now, young lady, one had hoped for more improvement. I have to go to the hospital now, but I'll be back tomorrow. Oh, but there's someone here to speak to you.
Mr. Doyle?
Lady Sarah. I wanted to see you.
I am not much to see. Elspeth has gone away for a little, as you know. It is better if my husband is not... Or once in my hearing he threatened her and... But of course she had probably provoked him. I am sorry. My mind is not clear.
No, what you're saying is clear.
Mr. Doyle, would you come closer? Elspeth has said you can be trusted and...
Yes.
I want you to tell me. Is it true? What Dr. Bell says, this is an imbalance? Or is there more? Please. For you are the only one I can ask.
I saw Dr. Bell, but I...
Well, the pulse at least is normal.
Mr. Doyle.
Sir?
I was not aware that you were actively involved in my wife's medical supervision.
I take my instruction from Dr. Bell, sir.
Yes, well, she may not be a patient of Dr. Bell's for very much longer now, if I might ask you to leave.
Lady Sarah.
Sir Henry must certainly now be considered a suspect. We can establish he threatened Miss Scott directly. He was at Madame Rose's the night the blood was left. He was even a visitor to the Crawfords. Are we really to risk allowing him to persecute his wife to whom he's given syphilis?
I warned you of the consequences of announcing her condition, and you cannot prove her husband is responsible.
Well, I must try to. I will not simply wait and see her suffer. Besides, I promised otherwise.
I should be very careful of engaging yourself too personally in this business. It has a singular quality which concerns me. The resolution may not be happy.
Excuse me, madam.
Who?
I was wondering if you knew a gentleman who sometimes pays visits here to Madame Rose's. A gentleman of means. His name's Henry.
Oh, we have many visitors here. It's a matter for us.
It's just that he recommended you.
You want me to prepare?
Does he come and see you much?
Henry? He's a lord, is he not? A tall man, yes? I know him, but he doesn't see me. The girl he liked was Agnes. Agnes Walsh. She's gone. Nobody knows where.
Agnes Walsh was his mistress. Where is she?
Nobody knows.
And he doesn't come back?
Oh, yes, he's back. He says she might give him something bad. He was very angry with her, you know. But he hasn't chosen another girl yet. Maybe he will, or maybe he'll go somewhere else.
Did he accuse her then? Of infecting her?
You didn't come here for yourself, did you?
Is there no way I can find her if I pay?
I told you. Nobody knows where she went. And nobody will say your friend was here either. Certainly not me. Now please go, or I will have you thrown out.
Now I felt sure Sir Henry had blood on his hands. With the help of my friend Neil, I was determined to find the woman Carlyle had blamed for his infection.
She's never heard of your mysterious Agnes. Well, why do you search for her anyway? I told you. It's to help someone.
How I wished I could tell them the truth about the real dangers. Time was short. Whoever was behind this had already killed, and attacked, and mutilated.
Agnes Walsh! Agnes Walsh!
But the call went unanswered. None of the women would talk. Were they frightened? Had Agnes been killed by Sir Henry, the man she'd infected? Was the Room of Blood part of this revenge? I was still haunted by Neil's notion of evil, his belief that it was in all of us. The idea preyed on me, but I never spoke of it to Bell. He was increasingly concerned by Lady Sarah's condition. It was horrifying to me to see the suffering of the wife Carlyle had so callously infected. Yet, by her own request and my honor as a doctor, I could not tell her sister. This left me in a quandary, and nightly I would search for a way through, certain there was some connection I was missing. But on one matter at least, I'd made up my mind.
I've been thinking that to come to Africa as an itinerant dancer when I can barely dance would be silly. I want to come as something else. I want to come as your husband.
Do not mock me.
I do not. It cannot be soon, I know. I need to establish myself. I'll need to earn money and find a place where we could live, but if you'll wait, it's not so long. We could lay our plans. Please. Will you marry me?
What do you suppose? Yes. Yes, of course.
Before, sir. You were asking for Agnes? Agnes Walsh?
Yes, I've been trying to find her. Do you know where she is?
No, but I know someone in yours, sir. And, sir, you said you were medical and were in need of a doctor. My friend, she's taken very ill.
Well, is she nearby?
Yes, sir. In here, quickly, sir. This man will help. Oh, please, sir, she's taken so poorly.
You're all right. You're not feverish. I think it might have been something you've eaten.
It is something she's eaten, all right. I thought it wouldn't stop.
Oh, you feel very weak. I think you should lie down.
Well, sir. Thank you.
What was it you ate?
You'd better tell the truth, Kate. Come on. You must.
Dr. Bell! Dr. Bell! I must talk to you.
Later. I have a lecture to give.
It's Carlyle.
Go on, I'll follow you.
He's killed twice, I am sure of it. Another woman was nearly poisoned yesterday. He may yet kill his wife.
Who has he killed?
Agnes Walsh. The girls I spoke to are scared to talk of her, but I discovered she died in Leith 2 months ago. I've been to the grave and obtained the death certificate. Again, the doctor said it was alcoholic poisoning.
So he was a gentleman.
As I say, sir, I kent him from before. I used to work at Madame Rose's and he used to come here a good deal once. He is a gentleman. Some even said he was a lord. But we hadn't seen him for a while. Not since his particular friend left.
And what was her name?
Agnes Walsh. I see him on the road and he asked if I was clean. I said I was. And he come here and paid.
And after?
He talked to another girl here too, Harriet. Then he says he knows doctors. He gave me these pills. He says they were for my liver.
And this was the day before yesterday?
Aye, sir. He said to take 3, but I didn't take them till last night and only took a wee bit of one. And I'm no wanting to talk anymore. I'll say no more to no one.
Very well. But I'm coming back again soon. Whatever these contain, we are still on treacherous ground. And as you heard, our only witness refuses to speak out, and wouldn't be believed if she did. And as for Lady Carlyle, perhaps it was patent medicine you saw. You're sure it looked the same?
I only caught a glimpse of the box, but it seemed similar.
Poison would certainly explain a good deal about her condition. We must analyze these pills as soon as possible.
Sir Henry is not home, Doctor.
That is of no consequence. I wish to attend my patient.
I know my husband is considering a second opinion, Dr. Bell. I do not at all wish it.
Thank you. Of course, it is his right.
I am glad you are here.
Do you recall when we met last?
Yes, I do.
You had some medicine I think you were going to ask me about, but you changed your mind. You know what I describe? Have you still got it? You know what it was?
A herbal remedy, I believe. It is unimportant.
Who gave it to you?
As I say, I think it contained a herbal remedy. It is not important.
Was this remedy given to you by your husband?
I do not wish to be questioned in this way.
I'm sorry, I think it was. The pills have made you worse. You take only tiny amounts and pretend to take more. You're even beginning to suspect your husband is trying to poison you. Is that not true?
We must stop there, Doyle.
Please go away. Go away. I do not know what you talk of.
Yes, arsenic. But there are also minute traces of other poisons. This man is generous with his favors. Meanwhile, our visit has had an effect. Sir Henry wants to see me, and will certainly be calling in Dr. Gillespie to take over the treatment of his wife. Time is short. Ah, gentlemen.
An emergency exhumation of Agnes Walsh. What evidence is there?
You know how I work.
It will need an order from the Procurator Fiscal.
If you say that allegations of a very serious nature have been made, he will give the order.
Against a very prominent citizen. And by whom?
By Doyle here and a woman.
A prostitute?
A woman?
Bell, the Procurator is a very good friend of Sir Henry's. If you're wrong about this, your association with the police would be at an end.
So be it. Poor Beecher. Knows nothing, understands less.
Dr. Bell and Mr. Doyle.
Good day, Sir Henry.
Good day to you, Bell. I'm glad you've called. Truth is, I've decided to ask Gillespie for a second opinion on my wife's condition. To be
Sir
frank...
Henry, I have something else to discuss with you. Were you ever acquainted with a woman named Agnes Walsh?
Not that I can recall. Why?
I have reason to believe that you paid her visits from time to time in the old town.
My work as a member of Parliament takes me all over the city. I meet many people. I can't remember the names of all of them.
I've seen you myself. At an establishment named Madame Rose's.
What?
Your wife is suffering from syphilis.
Bell, this is outrageous.
The diagnosis is correct, sir.
I suspected my wife had strayed. Well, in that case, I have all the more need for Gillespie. Now, if I might ask you to leave...
I'm sorry, Sir Henry, but you do not fully grasp the seriousness of this situation. You have been witnessed at the establishment in question. You are almost certainly the one who was infected with this disease and passed it on to your wife.
These are vile accusations for which you've not a shred of proof. There's not a court in the land would accept the word of such women as witnesses any more than I would.
But it's even more serious than that. There's evidence you administered poison to a woman in Marchmont Square.
Enough! I shall pursue your behavior with the proper authorities. I'll destroy you, Doyle. And you're not immune, Bell, whatever you might think.
Henry? I thought the doctors had been discharged.
Well, they leave now. I fear your sister may be involved in this somewhere. Go back to your room.
Lady Sarah, your condition is a venereal disease passed from your husband to you. He contracted it from a woman named Agnes Walsh.
Drummond, show these men out immediately. We wasted enough time with quacks. Dr. Gillespie will get to the bottom of everything, I promised you.
Doyle. It was utter folly to say that. It was the truth. I have told you before. We happen to live in a society which suppresses such truths. Once they are out, people look for a victim. Lacking any support for your case, that is precisely what you have made of Lady Carlisle, a victim.
Doyle! What's going on?
What?
We were told you were leaving. Gillespie said so. Is it true?
Possibly.
Have you heard about Carlisle? I tried to find 2 doctors to have his wife committed.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. Your career is at an end, and mine hangs by a thread.
Yours?
Oh, Sir Henry must be placated at all costs. He has accused me of a vicious slander. However, as long as you go, I'm probably safe.
Well, how can you abandon it now? Ladies say that it's to be committed.
Yes, Dr. Gillespie was there this morning.
So we failed?
Failed? Your emotions lead you again, in spite of all my attempts at instruction. I failed once. A long time ago. But another time for that. Now, we have this. The exhumation order. This will take us well into the morning. Doyle here will keep a formal record. Begin.
Doyle, there you are. Carlisle's wife's to be committed tonight. They found a second doctor to sign the papers.
She was suffering from an advanced stage of syphilis.
And?
There was no arsenic. Not a trace of it. It was strychnine.
What?
In quantity. A few drops was enough to kill that frog there. Moreover, I matched the poison to traces in the pills Kate was given. He's obviously fond of both compounds, but of course the strychnine is quicker.
There is no question the woman was poisoned.
Oh, thank God. We have been lucky.
Luck had nothing to do with it. Whoever wrote Agnes Walsh's death report was a fool, because the symptoms he describes are clear as day. Tetanic convulsions of the arms and legs, unmistakable. And your beggar presumably had the same. Ah, Gillespie.
What on earth are you doing here, Bell? I wait another doctor. I have taken over this case.
I'm afraid it's a murder case now.
He's perfectly correct. And we need to speak to Sir Henry.
This way, gentlemen.
Yes, Inspector Beecher, I am aware of these men's allegations. But you should know that I deny any association of the kind they suggest.
Perhaps. But I fear it's beyond that now, sir. There is clear evidence a woman has been killed.
That has nothing to do with me.
You absolutely deny contact of any kind with this Agnes Walsh.
I've never heard of her.
And can you tell us why such stories arose in the first place?
I'm afraid I can't. My wife is to be committed to an asylum. I can no longer be answerable for anything she says or does. Now, if I might ask you to leave. You'll need a warrant to stay and search, and there's nothing to find.
They will find this. You were right, Mr. Doyle. My husband asked me to take these. They kept making me sick, but he persisted. And I had to pretend, taking only tiny doses. But I stopped last night.
These are a harmless herbal remedy.
I see, Inspector. A harmless remedy, Sir Henry?
Certainly.
Will you oblige me by swallowing one of them? And I will instantly withdraw all accusations. It's a quick and easy way to resolve the matter. We are waiting, Sir Henry. Come on. Take one. Wise. I suspect these contain strychnine. Strychnine was found in Agnes Walsh's body. Strychnine was administered to another woman who survived, and she will identify you.
I was given them by a man I met at the brothel. But I swear I never gave them to Agnes.
You admit relations with her?
So your wife is not responsible for her condition?
No. No, it was me. I'm sorry. I'm so dreadfully sorry to have brought this on you. I understood they were a purgative. He said it would be effective. I just wanted the illness to go away. Forgive me. Please, I beg you, forgive me.
Please, that is enough. I do not wish my husband's admission to be made public in this way. And I will stand by him.
Madam, I'm afraid I'll have to ask him to accompany us for questioning, even so.
So Carlyle's part in this puzzle is clear, and it leaves our true poisoner exposed.
You say we're nowhere. He's still at large.
That is so, but with the aid of a brave young woman, I have contrived an assignation for him. It has been a long, strange case, Doyle, but we are very close now.
Where the devil are we?
You will see presently. In here, keep your voice down.
Okay, what?
Oh, it's all right. It's just bad.
But he wasn't meant to get here till 10.
Aye, sir, but his plans have changed. He must have got wind of something. He was not fair taken.
There must be somebody in the house. Go and get help.
Hello? Hello? Anyone there?
I recommend Harriet. She's not as dirty as most of them. Well, she's only asleep. I think. No, I assure you, I gave her something to make her sleep. I had a little myself. You?
Of course. You gave a woman a pill in front of my eyes. You gave them to Sir Henry, too.
I am sure he'd have loved his wife to die. You and Belle should not have stopped it. I already disposed of the poxy Agnes and a few others. Your beggar was just a trial.
Why?
Why? Of course, carriers of such germs should die, but that is only a part of it. Well, you and I have spoken of such things so often, and still you do not understand the meaning of the future. Of evil.
Neil! Neil!
I was glad you chased Crawford thanks to my mumbo-jumbo. Shame the fool strung himself up. You will give my compliments to Elspeth.
No, he can't have got very far. Beecher, have your men search the area.
You know my position, Bell. My men follow him, that is all. You round the back, you round the front. Come on!
He spoke of Elspeth. We must get to him. Do you think I trusted him as a friend?
We're making good time, and he can't be ahead of us.
You think they detained him?
We must hope so, Doyle. But I once told you the unwritten code of this town.
Hello? Elspeth? Elspeth? Elspeth?
Doyle.
I hope that you will receive this. I'm sorry, but I no longer wish to continue with the deception. I wish to put an end to it. So she's gone back.
But this is only a fragment of a letter. And all our things are still here. Only one set of footprints. Hers, I'm glad to say. This has been here for some time. Here, word missing, message from the future for D. Doyle. Freedom to commit any act. All your methods are useless.
What in the devil's name is this?
No, don't!
It's her coat.
You cannot use that superior tone now, Dr. Bell. There's nothing, and you know it.
So not even the procurator...
A terrible business, Mr. Doyle. My sympathies. But we think it fairly clear that she committed...
I think we should leave that now. This is not the place.
Yes, of course, it's sad. But there's no reason for concealment. The matter here is straightforward. We have the letter. We hear from Sir Henry that she was unstable. It's clearly suicide. There's no evidence anyone else was even here.
Neil?
He sailed for Nova Scotia some hours ago. Because of Bell's suspicion, he was followed to the boat, and there's no case of any substance against the man.
Certainly not here. But then Dr. Bell has his theory, and all he can show for it is a pile of sand.
He will kill again! And you let him escape!
Calm down, Doyle! Of course, the boy is not of his right mind. Take him outside. Get him some air.
There must be some evidence.
Only what we ourselves destroyed, as he knew we would. There were not even footprints. He came by the shore, and later he returned and tore the lines from her letter, which Beecher sees as proof of suicide.
Then what use is any of it? I only wish I'd never met you. He kills her and then escapes, and you can do nothing. Your method, sir, is a pitiful lie.
No. This is the lie. There is no possible reason for it, no gain, no profit, not even wicked pleasure. And if this is the future, Doyle, I reject it utterly and with contempt. Perhaps, as his message says, when men murder without any reason, my methods are useless. Objective deduction, useless. Very well. We find new.
So you can do nothing?
On the contrary, I will do everything within my power, and if it takes years, Doyle, we will find him.
There must be someone who can help.
At the moment, there is only us. Our crusade is personal now, Doyle. Here the line is drawn, and if we have to fight the future, so be it. We will, and on into the next century. Will you come?
And so the second case in which I observed the method of Dr. Joseph Bell came to its dark conclusion. There were more cases ahead with the doctor, but apart from our pursuit of Neil, none would touch me so personally. The feeling of loss was unbearable. Nothing could console me. Certainly no words. But strangely in time, words did become my consolation. And out of the pain, something came. Slowly. Elspeth had given the idea life, and gradually it took shape. Someone who could have helped us, and who would have won as surely as the doctor lost. The ultimate consulting detective. But there was one final surprise. That out of her death came someone the whole world believed in so much, that he could never die.